Mud 46 meeting. I'd like to welcome you all here. Let's begin the meeting with opening invocation and a pledge of allegiance. Would please bow your heads. Our Heavenly Father, we want to thank you for bringing us here all in good health. Lord, we pray that you would give us good spirits, good attitudes, and a willingness to work with one another peacefully and in a gentlemanly manner, Lord. Cast aside our egos, cast aside our attitudes, and remind us that we're all in the same boat together. And we have decisions to make today. Lord, we give you thanks and praise, and in your Son's name, amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one day under God, one and indivisible. All right, any comments from the public? Okay. Do we have any requests for adjustments, Mike?
Nothing from me this month.
Excellent.
The adjustments, but I do have one house here that I needed, that we had filed suit on. It's gonna be on a tax bill at 14 Hampwell Way. It's in a business. They've made one payment. They owe 21 to 23, almost $10,000 just for us, not for the, not including the county. But it's gonna probably go to tax sale on May the 4th. or 5th. So I'm just letting you know, there's no action.
Okay.
I'm just letting you know, in case you all know something about the property that I don't know about.
Can't say I do. Thank you for bringing that up. They know about it?
Oh, yeah, they've been, yeah, he sent this done in to make arrangements. They only paid one time of $1,200. And they were on payment arrangements and never came back. We can't get a hold of them. The attorneys can't get a hold of them. They've been served.
Okay.
So, I mean, they're fully aware of what's going on.
Okay. Do you know the name of the business?
But it's a home. They run the business out of their home.
All right. Thank you. All right, consent agenda, item 5 through 9. Do we have any adjustment requests? Anyone on the board? Okay. We'd like to approve this. I need a motion.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? All right. All those in favor of the consent agenda items 5 through 9 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Passes. On to the regular agenda, item number 10, the monthly Woodlands Division report.
Sir, good evening.
Good evening.
Our monthly operating report starts on page 17. One item I'd like to make a correction on is on the rolling 12-month water loss, it shows 5.5%. The number should be 4.21%. We pulled some.
What page are we on?
Page 18.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. So that should be 4.21%. We'll have this all corrected next month.
Would you repeat that?
On the 12-month rolling, on the rolling 12-month water loss, it shows a total loss of 5.5%. That number is actually 4.21%.
Why is there a change? Why is that?
It grabs the wrong data. It just, yeah, something that was found at the last second, we couldn't get it in the.
I mean, it's better.
Yes, ma'am. And it ties into the, item number 2 is the budget preparation guidelines for FY25. It starts on page 30.
But could I ask a question? So you go past that page,
On January 31st, you had a 12-inch valve range, lost 300,000 gallons.
Yes,
What was that caused by?
it was just the valve that, I'm not mistaken, the one on the wind valve, the bonnet, the bolts that hold the bonnet
Right.
onto it, it deteriorated and started to leak around the seal.
Okay, and the water losses from repairing it?
Well, the water loss is just from the time that we found it,
Found
to
it,
the time we
okay.
got it repaired, that was an estimated water loss.
And when you were repairing these leaks, like you've got a push-on valve, you have a push-on valve that shifted, causing it to leak.
Yes.
You're not going on with the push-on valve back. You're going on with restraint joint, so that doesn't occur.
Correct.
Correct. Okay.
If we come across push-on fittings, it's, you take it out.
And those are normal for the line. There was not anything that anybody did incorrectly.
It's just not required.
Yeah.
Any other questions for the MOR for me?
On that total loss, is that, I assume that's below industry average?
Absolutely. yes.
Okay. And
Yes, sir.
do you guys have a goal that you guys are shooting for?
You know, the goal at once upon a time was 6% was the goal.
All right.
As we've started reviewing up to the last 5 to 6 years, we're seeing that number shrink. And that's why in our budget guidelines, we've made a change on FY 25's water loss predictions. So it was scheduled, we were going to use 5.2%
As a goal,
as
Or a standard.
budget
okay,
water loss. That's going to be changed to 4.5%.
okay.
for
And-
FY 25.
And on these, so each of the residents has their own smart meter. Do you guys have smart meters that you put at various locations so that you can, I guess, hunt down leaks?
No, not necessarily. I mean, if we expect we have an actual leak on the line, if we're able to, we have crews that can come out and you can do certain tests to verify if it's a leak through acoustics. 9 times out of 10 leaks that we have aren't really leaks, they're usually failures.
Okay.
So we find our leaks.
They have SCADA. It's what their metering system is.
Okay, I'm just thinking of the total of all your customers versus the total that you deliver to the Woodlands Water should be equal.
Well, yeah, in a perfect world.
Yeah.
In a watertight world, yeah, it should be 1 gallon produced is 1 gallon delivered.
Right.
Minus your storage. That comes out in the wash.
I'm just wondering if you have any downstream meters to,
But there's always shrinkage in any process.
Well, there's
Yeah.
meters on your wells. There's meters for the surface water coming in. So
Production.
you have been accounting.
So, but as far as in the system, as you're saying, we don't have anything to differentiate where that loss is actually going. Everything is based, it's either verified, we know it's a known loss from flushing, line breaks, maintenance in the field, or it's an unknown loss, which is.
okay. And is there a dollar figure per tenth of a percentage?
Oh, sure, is there, use a dollar?
You would probably calculate it based on
Just based
what
on-
you're charging,
based on
right?
what
You would charge, you
So
basically,
it would be different for every mud.
Well, no, you take it at the Woodlands, which would be 341.
Right.
Okay.
yeah.
So,
As far as market's concerned, yes.
Okay, so it would be your loss, not ours.
so really what you're saying, in your branch lines, you don't have any meters. You have them at the production sites and then at the home.
Correct. We don't have any master meters to go into the different muds or anything like that.
Which is typical for a fully integrated system. If you have a system that just has points of interconnect, maybe for supplemental water or emergency, then it's standard to have meters. But for a fully integrated system, this is.
And we don't have any emergency do we have emergency interconnect?
We have one with Shenandoah.
Okay, and that's if they ask us, it's not like on pressure or anything.
Right, yes, we have to unlock it, we have to open it up.
Yeah. So they have to ask us that they need water to supplement their water.
Right.
I have a quick question on the pump repairs at Water Plant 3, and you're waiting on the replacement shaft seals and bearing.
Mhm.
How long do you expect to wait for those? And it's not affecting the system because you have redundancy at your booster pumps. It's not
Correct.
affecting,
You
yeah.
still have your firm capacity we're operating off of, plus it's winter time, so that's a plus.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, those shafts came in this week.
Okay.
We should get an update from the maintenance manager tomorrow on what the status is, but I know we were waiting on, yes, the manufacturer, every time we were due for them to come in, they'd call and say it's gonna be next week. We're
Yeah.
next week, so.
Yeah, I didn't know if there was a supply chain issue or something on that.
Anything else?
But not for the MOR.
Okay.
We covered the changes for the budget guidelines for FY 25 on lowering the water loss that we're gonna using all of our assumptions from 5.2% to 4.5. The only item I have left for y'all is the excess FY 23 excess funds. A memo that starts on page 44. But it shows that there was approximately $5.1 million left over from FY 23. 85% of that was mainly due to the excessive water sales conditions we had. This memo kind of lines up the options. We have five items or 5 projects that $5.1 million could fund if you approve that we keep that 5.1 million. Or there's also the option on if your MUD wants a refund, what that refund will be based on your percentage of water sales. This is something you have to direct your trustee to vote on in March's MUD meeting.
I've got a lot of questions about that. The budget process, and this is not solely directed on you, it's the whole SJRA management team. When you go for your annual budget and we see those numbers and we approve them, okay, that's your budget for the year. It's not a moving the goalpost kind of thing. And this money that we're talking about is actually money that our constituents have paid. It's revenue, okay, for us and for you, okay? But it's being taken from us in an, I want to be kind because I've been counseled to be kind by President.
Who, me?
Yes. It's looked at as non-budgetary, but must be approved, and the approval is being taken away from the MUDs and given to the trustees. I'm sure they're doing a good job. I'm not critiquing them, but the process to me is a concern. Here's why. When we did our budget for this year, we came fairly strong on not raising the taxes, of getting this MUD classified as a developed district, and reducing the potential of 8%, which was requested by the WWA, down to 3.5. This was all in doing the proper due diligence for our constituents. I knew, even though my good buddy over here was concerned about my attitude about not having adequate reserves of only 2 months or 3 months, that was not adequate in his opinion, and I respect his opinions. I was not being contentious with him, but I was watching the monthly increase in revenues, and it was so far above what the forecasted budget was. I took a look at this and said, you know, we're going to get between 900,000 and $1.2 million over the course of a year. And golly, I was close to right. 1.137 is how many millions of dollars this MUD has got in excess funds that can be used for things like the reserves that the general manager needs from MUD 46 and that he thinks we should do. Plus, he's got other projects that he wants us to fund. The process in place right now takes that decision away from MUD 46 and gives it to a bunch of 10 wonderful people who've got different needs and different requirements and different attitudes on how to manage their MUD. I don't want to be subjected to that. So my point of view is I'm not going to support the taking that $1.137 million and returning it to the SJRA. I want it brought in to MUD 46 and used for the management of MUD 46 and our constituents. Do any of the board members care to disagree with me?
I don't disagree. However, I think this is a great public relations opportunity. If you give the money back, you can use that as a marketing technique. The voters do not understand the budgetary process as much as they understand the word refund. And when you say we refunded the taxpayers this amount of money, it makes you look good. We have a budget or a reserve shortfall that we need to fill back up. We could use that.
Well, I knew this back because it was so obvious back in June or July. We were tracking to do
Yeah.
that. And again, the process is a legacy process that you folks have got. And it is merely a drop in a bucket. This $5 million in aggregate for all of the WWA is only $5 million. You've got some $20 to $40 million, which is not a bucket, it's a 55-gallon drum of money that much of it has to be refunded to water organizations, clients, other entities as needed, but it's a big number. And some months ago, Ed Shackelford and I had a conversation on the phone about what to do, what my thoughts were. And my point then was I'd like to see the new general manager come in and see how he wishes to approach this and what he believes is equitable, and it must be transparent. The key point is transparent. And when Chris made the presentation to the trustee meeting, I did go online, I did watch it. I went and actually picked up the trustee packet from Shelley before the end of the week so I could see what all of the process and how things were flowing. And my point of view is that, how can I put it best? Feed the lion and he won't know that he's caged. So give us back our 1.137 million so we can use it to make ourselves stronger. Eric is going forward with a process of a SWOT analysis. And he will learn when he goes through the SWOT analysis. Well, it's in the minutes, the trustee minutes.
Approved.
It wasn't approved? Shame on the trustees. Okay, but the point being is that there are MUDs that are in serious financial shape. It's one of the weaknesses or threats to some MUDs. Fortunately, we're not in that situation. And when we had the budget process, I was watching this increased revenue throughout the year, month to month. I said, we're going to do fine this year. And that's going to take care of a lot of the observations that Eric made when we were getting the budget approved. So my point of view, and I open it to the rest of the board members here, is we want our money.
Well, Fred, I got two questions.
Sir.
One of them is that there's a unexpected expense listed in there, whatever it is, 5 items.
Yes.
This Highway 242 expense that they would not be appropriate for them to have considered in their budget because they didn't know about it. And I'm wondering, does that one need to be paid off out of this?
Think back to your corporate days.
I am.
Okay.
And we had a extremely rigid budget process. The goal was cut your budget. And here we're looking to, just maintain. But my question though is that number is going to have to be paid for, right?
I'd say it needs to be discussed as opposed to just rubber stamped.
I'm not in favor of rubber stamp.
Okay, I know that.
It's-
I'm agreeing with you, by the way.
It's basically
So
money here going into the other hand, so
sure,
it-
I understand how the flow works.
but
So if,
pay me now or pay me later.
and so you would agree that that needs to be paid?
I would not.
I would not either. I'd say deal with it.
I say deal
As
with.
part of good fiscal responsibility, people are prepared to budget. If it was not planned for, okay, postpone it or deal with it in some other manner, but don't take it from MUD 46. I'm going to use a bad word, indiscriminately.
I'm not disagreeing
Okay.
exactly with your premise.
Can we just clarify? So the 242 line is because the probably 16-inch, 12-inch line was constructed within the 242 TxDOT right of way. When you're constructed in TxDOT right of way, you have to adhere to TxDOT. If they widen, you have to move your line. And that is what, and you're saying that when was this known and why wasn't it in the budget?
Precisely.
Yeah, that's what he's saying.
Precisely. I mean, it didn't just drop out of the sky saying we're putting it there.
So-
It's been planned.
So is that in a budget and you're just moving it up, or no, it's
No,
not in a
this was
budget?
unknown. This was an unknown. We were contacted by TxDOT 7, 8 months ago. Maybe. And they're putting in retention basins down 242, a couple of ponds and
Like just drainage channels, like,
like flood retention ponds. And they're redoing their drainage up and down 242. And our lines are at the same elevation of where their inflow and outflows are going to be.
okay,
So
so they're
total we
creating
have-
lower roadside ditches for flooding purposes. I'm assuming it's flooded over there. It's flooding, let's see 42.
I think they're actually doing, so I'll speak on this,
Yes.
Jason, thank you. I think they're actually doing improvements on 242, so they're actually doing roadway improvements, and as part of that, the drainage infrastructure is in conflict with our existing water line. So they came to us and gave us a 90-day notice, which is what TxDOT will do and tell you have to move within 90 days. So we didn't have a choice. We've been doing the design. We actually worked with them. Originally, they asked us to relocate our entire 16-inch line out of the way because their drainage infrastructure was in direct conflict. Mike, I think you've been dealing with them on things with those.
Well, it's a joy, let me tell you.
And so we were actually able to negotiate with them, talk with them, and they moved their storm sewer where we just had to relocate 3 that are in conflict directly with where some drainage is going into a detention pond and then coming out as well. So
So you're
3
saying
or
we're
4
in
spots.
direct conflict of the storm sewer system, not that we're gonna be under their roadway, and
Correct.
why can't we just leave it where it's
Yes,
at?
it's
Okay,
just 4 spots. I think it's 4, 3 or 4,
4 lines.
4 lines, 2 spots that we're having to dip down, go underneath.
and what size line is it?
60.
And you cannot do this internally. You don't have crews to go in and,
Would you say that when we first put those lines in, that we did get the approval from that authority to put it in?
Yeah, the way TxDOT works is it's their right of way and you have an encroachment agreement with them. And the way that that is written is that when they tell you to move, you move. So ideally, nowadays, most people would want to have an easement outside of the right of way. And you would, then if they needed to widen the right of way where that detention pond would go and they need you to move, they have to pay for you to move. But that's not how it was done when this was originally designed.
And they can change their plans slightly to allow
Gravity supersedes.
gravity go,
pressure.
yeah, got it.
So, obviously some of these projects, I'm just like, we have discussions with some of these projects, like the 242, like the condition assessment.
Correct.
That are probably being driven in a harder way than some of the others.
Mhm.
And I guess the first question I have, and I'll use the AC pipeline. I would favor that project. But we haven't heard the consulting. We haven't heard anything about that project other than, very little percent you're pursuing it. I've heard positive things. I guess the question I would have is, I understand what, my fellow mud directors want. They want a good guy, and why can't we fund the money and then pursue the supplements later? Meaning when you come before us and you give us the business case, like you will soon, maybe next month, then we can vote, to approve those.
Actually, we will have the money.
We'll have the money. So that's one thing. The second thought is, we had this elusive pot of money at GRP. I count 40 million, I don't know what the number is, but I just add up all the elements over the last 2 years, two years of high heat, a lot of usage of water, and then payment by some of the people who are deferring payment because of the civil litigation. So the question I have is, obviously, when Ed was here last time, he said, well, they're going to take 12 million of that, and that's going to go into debt, paid out debt. But I kind of struggle with that a little bit, the way debt's paid down, but the interest rates where they are, and then 10 million R&R, for the GRP, and then everything else is whatever that number was is rolled into the balance sheet. Right? It just kept. So that's what he lightly discussed. So I would like to hear more about that so that we can, we
Well,
can comprehend.
if we give up on the 5-gallon bucket, the 55-gallon drum is hanging over there. And if this is the process, this legacy process of asking for more money when they need it and keeping the money when things work in our favor, I think that's too
Yeah, no,
unilateral from my point of view.
And, I would like to hear more about the discussion about that. I'll pull the number out, $40-some million.
Okay.
Because I realize that, that's not all of our money. That's when you refund it to our GRP, everybody who paid in. I don't quite fully understand that. Does it, everybody who pays the $299 gets part of the refund, and maybe the people who pay.
It'll be done very similar to this analysis that was attached to this
I'd like to
document.
see kind of, I'm kind of hesitant to do this, but I'd also like to see, to help me convince to do something, is to see where's that money going to?
Right.
You know what I mean?
So let me back up. So I've got a couple of things, David, I think in what you said, and then Fred sort of want to respond to some things that you did as well. You requested some additional information on the AC water line assessment that we've been looking to do. So I've attended a handful of the MUD meetings, and I think that how we've typically done this particular item is we've gone through the different options, and then Chris or Jason has actually outlined each of those projects so that you could understand what the request was. And I do believe we have a scope here for you for the AC condition assessment for you to review. So that's something that we wanted to give to you today. And I do know that this is really the first time y'all have seen that. So that's not us. We literally just got that scope kind of negotiated. So we wanted to bring that to y'all. So that's not anything we've been trying to hide. This is just the first step of that. I will say a revision that maybe from what we talked about last year when we were discussing the AC waterline condition assessment. Dan, you feel free to help me if I misspeak here. Originally we weren't sure. We did the best that we could to put numbers together. It was 3 to 4 million potentially over a handful of years. And what your scope is actually going to show is it's 1.6 total in that request that's in the memo that we've given you. It's 1.6 million, and it's just right over a year worth of time, and it's the whole kit and caboodle. So when we talked and we did the RQ, selected HDR as the engineer. Theirs is about $1 million worth of that, and there's 600,000 to do excavations to get down to the pipelines. So that's all that they are recommending that we do unless something else is found. So that's that particular project.
How long would this take, this project?
So we would want to kick it off in April, assuming that we get money to do so. And then it'll take just over a year, so probably April to June of next year.
July 2020.
There you go.
Okay, and what's the risk of waiting until the new fiscal year and getting that budget approved and putting it in that budget? So we now have time not only to look at it and study it, but also make sure there are no other things that could possibly come to impact this and make it cost even more than we're estimating or forecasting at this point in time.
So I'm just gonna say we've got money in hand at this point, and we're bringing you what the options have been.
My problem,
So most of that-
everyone sees money.
I understand. I guess so the company you're choosing
Yes, sir.
is the 3 initials,
HDR.
HDR. So HDR, I always forget the initials,
Yeah, that's fine.
is the same company the same guys who wrote the study on Mesa Water. So
Okay.
we got 2
California.
people. So when you think about this consulting contract, it's really it's for labor.
Yeah,
A big
it's-
hunk of it is,
for their
no, we're not buying
professional-
pumps and valves and all. And you also aligning the guy's schedule right, to begin. So, he's looking to keep his schedule, available, right? He's anticipating this contract so he can come out here and do this assessment, help us do this assessment. So it's not like pumps and valves. So if we delay it, we delay the analysis, right, which I think we're ready to do. And so,
The other thing that I would point out is much like the 242 project that we didn't know about when we were budgeting last year,
know about this.
we didn't know about this either. And so that's something that's added in, whether you pay for it now, Fred, or you pay for it next year.
I'm
Yeah, that's-
not disagreeing
It will
with
be there.
your thought process or
Right.
the series of events that transpired. I'm just saying I'd like to hold to fiscal responsibility and budget, to the budget that we had approved, unless it is something that would be considered an emergency or catastrophic failure or something like that. That's not what I hear. This is something that's important to have, appropriate to have, but it's not urgent at this point.
So that you're Opinion is noted, Fred.
Let-
So, David,
Yeah, so
Can we do that? Can we just say we want the money back?
So I was gonna kind of go back through some of that. So the contract,
not
has
us.
a process to set rates on an annual basis.
Mhm.
And also have reserves set aside. That process was further formalized in 2014 through a resolution that was adopted by the Board of Trustees that included this process for an option for a refund. Because before that, the only process was if there's excess there, which we've always had, we're in Texas, we're gonna have droughts and we're gonna have, wet seasons. That any excess was just considered as part of the next budget cycle. That's what the rates would need to be as we come around to the next budget cycle, and they would be lower. Or if there were projects that, the River Authority would bring those to the districts and trustees for consideration. This process of coming to the trustees is an additional step over and above the regular budgeting process, was put into place after 2014. And because the MUDs have delegated the authority to their respective trustees to approve the River Authority budget, the River Authority in their resolution said, okay, well, if we have an excess, we will come back to the board that approved our budget, which is the trustees, for a majority vote, similar to a majority vote to approve the budget, a majority of vote to decide whether these funds go back to the MUDs or whether they are, retained for, X number of projects or additional reserves that are needed for emergency reserves or what have you. So that's the process that's been in place since 2014. And I think what I've heard from some of these previous meetings is if we had a majority vote of the trustees to refund the money to the MUDs, then we would probably have higher wholesale rates presented to the MUDs for the next budget cycle. And so that's what's been presented. Each MUD has.
And you understand the dilemma there, correct? Is that if they're successful, they gain. If they're not successful, we pay. It's a no-win strategy or process that was approved 10 years ago, and we're left with one vote. And we have the largest percentage of the dollars because we are the largest MUD in the WWA. So from my perspective, we're not doing our constituents any favors. And I can understand why some MUDs would say, whoa, wait a second. This is good for us for the following reason, and we don't have to pay that much for it. And I think that it's not equitable insofar as the number of residents we have in our district versus the others. Now, there was no comments made during the trustee meeting as to how the trustees wish to vote. I got the sense from some of David's comments that he was not supportive of it. Okay, certainly he questioned a little bit of it. Didn't get any other feedback that I could understand.
Yeah, it was just presented to the trustees so that the trustees could have this discussion with their boards and get direction from their boards this round of meetings so that the trustee could vote the will of their respective board at the March trustee meeting. So the purpose of this discussion is to give David direction from this board as to how you want him to vote on this issue next month. And I understand your point about, the larger pro rata share, but this, this has been the structure in place well before MUD 46 was the largest.
Just because it's always been done that way, doesn't mean it needs to be done in the future. That's my only point.
Okay.
Taken to the
Okay.
contractual structure.
So we need
I
to
want
make,
to, I got a question.
All right.
Fred. If I can slide in.
okay,
So what you're really recommending is request the full $1 million refunded to MUD 46. And the River Authority will come back for other things that they need, like this 242 pipeline. They'll come back and make a request. And request that, right?
raising rates based on need. Okay,
Mhm.
that makes all the sense in the world. I'm just saying in the middle of a budget process, it's been my experience, you don't change the budget. The budget is the budget. And whatever changes happen in the world around that corporation or that business entity, that's handled as an addition to the budget or a subtraction from the budget. You need to have a benchmark and measure yourself against the
Mhm.
benchmark, because what's get measured gets done. And what I see now is that if things go in favor of the SGRA, wonderful, they keep the money. If it goes against it, oh, we have to pay. I find that unacceptable. That's all.
Okay, let me interject now. We need to make a decision for David. I wanted to compliment the SJRA for having extra money and offering it to us. That's a very pleasant dilemma that we are in. I wanted to ask you, the reserve, is that contractual or legal?
Both.
It's both, yeah.
Okay, so we have a legal obligation and a contractual obligation to restore that. I just wanted to clear that up. So we don't make a motion on this. We just need to take a vote. And all those in favor of telling David to take a vote of refund the money to the trustees, signify by saying aye.
Wait a minute.
I
Trustees, you mean?
Some-
Mud
you-
46.
you
Mud
recommend you
40.
vote, Give us the money back. Vote no.
Say what?
That's correct.
No.
Do not
You- you
utilize the
vote.
funds, refund it to the mud.
Refund the money.
Refund it to the
And
mud.
we're not going to spend it, by the way. We're putting it into reserves and for other approved items that the WWA has asked us to fund separate and apart from what they're asking for.
They'll probably get it back
Say
sooner
that
or
again.
later. They'll get it back sooner or later. All right. It's not a motion, but it's a vote. If you want David to inform the trustees that Mud 46 would like a refund, signify by saying aye. Aye. And
An addendum to that.
No, that's it. You vote. You-
Yeah.
no,
all those opposed signify by saying aye.
I mean, hey,
Nay.
I voted aye.
You did?
I did.
Okay.
I didn't
see-
raise my
I didn't
hand.
see. It was okay. There's no nay votes. All right. So
I got my
you
instructions.
you got your instructions. Okay.
like an addendum to that, though. I would like to have a polling of all of the MUDs for all of the directors and how they voted, and I would like that public.
I'll just call that, I'll call for a voice vote. I mean,
Absolutely.
recorded vote.
Yes, absolutely,
I'll call for a vote.
without question,
All right.
because I think that needs to be communicated to our constituents. I think the court of public opinion will be more powerful than the court of law in this particular case.
So the, one other brief topic. So last time Ed is back there.
Yeah.
You were giving us kind of a, Hey, you were giving us a kind of a shorthand version of that excess funds in GRP. And, I'd like to hear more about that because we indirectly pay for that, right? We pay I guess we do. We pay the $2.99 directly to the GRP,
You pay a combined or blended rate.
blended rate to the GRP. So,
Your question, I think, was back to the GRP of what's happening. with
I'd like to
the
know
excess
what's
funds.
happening and in a more defined, it'd be nice to have a document just like this one that lays out what's going to happen.
We are still in the process, so I'm going to answer the question because I was here for your commentary. We are in the process, and that is something we actually had a meeting about it this morning. So we hopefully will bring something back shortly. We've got to go through it with the board and the GRP before we can bring it to the Woodlands.
I'd like to hear about the proposal before it's voted on.
Okay, we can discuss that, David,
Yeah,
on
okay.
what that is. I would say one of the options we are considering is very similar to what you laid out, that Ed has shared with you previously. There's maybe some nuance changes to it, but generally there are a handful of options we are considering right now. Refund is, or rebate, however you want to say that, is a potential option that we are considering.
I have a quick question on this. So do you take this to your board? Do you take this excess funds to your board and get approval, or does it just stop with the trustees? So I'm seeing you take it to your board. So
just when it goes to our board as a budget amendment in March.
When it goes to your board, do you say that there was opposition and like if it, the majority like says, the majority of the trustees say, keep the money, do with it according to this. Do you inform your board that there was not? That they don't have to.
So your board has the final say. We are allowed to consult.
For the policy, y'all get to choose whether you want to refund or whether we get to use that in the R&R. So that would drive what our budget amendment is that we bring to our board. So our budget amendment is either to issue the refund back to the MUDs, or it's to take those and have these projects as part of our new amended budget. So the policy drives that y'all make the decision first, and then we take what needs to happen in our budget to our order.
From a timing perspective, will we know before the next board meeting if that's been approved, or do we have to wait until April?
We bring that in March to our board for the budget amendment, but by then y'all would have already voted at the trustee level.
So we will know in March.
Yeah, after.
Isn't gonna go against what the.
I was gonna say, I wouldn't assume that they would change
Okay.
anything from the recommendation from the trustees.
They don't make that decision.
So in the event the MUDs decide majority to go forward with it, we have no choice as 46. Is that correct?
You have one of 10 votes.
One of 11 votes, isn't it?
Well, in the
386.
WA.
Okay, yeah, you got what, 386?
386 is not.
Yeah.
386 will be a tiebreaker if it is split at the trustees.
All right, any more discussion? Great, item 11.
We'll defer that to next month.
All right, very good.
Yeah, they're still not done.
Okay,
And
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
We'll try to make this little.
Right.
There was discussion on the AC water line. It came up in the excess memo. Connie did touch on it. What we have done is we issued a request for qualifications. We went through evaluation of those, submittals that we got, and we did interviews and have selected HDR Engineering to help us perform the AC water line condition-based assessment program. We've been working with them over the past month and a half, 2 months on developing what is the general approach and scope of work of how we move forward with that. So what this is a pretty refined draft scope of work for our approach to that study. We did talk in months past about, $3.5 million, 2 to 4 years. So we've now got the experts on board, have discussed with them, and feel like we have laid out a plan and process to deliver essentially a defensible, data-driven, justifiable plan on how we move forward with replacement of AC water line. So again, this is just over $1 million. It includes all the engineering efforts. It also includes the actual non-destructive testing. It includes the laboratory testing of any destructive samples that are taken from the pipe. Again, to get to the 1.6, that additional $550,000 approximately is for SDRA to have a contractor on board to help do excavation to get down to the pipe to be able to take those samples. Current plan for this is planned to be presented to SDRA's March board for consideration. Which puts this on a schedule to kick this off this April and later summer 2025 is the anticipated completion of services when we would have a final report. There is a task in here regarding kind of a communications plan, which relates to similar to the strategic plan. We had a number of meetings with the MUDs, all MUD director meetings. So there is some time that they're put in here for how we want to communicate certain milestones of results to the mud and potentially have kind of an all mud director meeting. Eric's been part of this. He sat in and helped us, gave some comments on development of the scope. So it's something that we acknowledge is a big program. And it's going to line out hundreds of millions of dollars of replacement for the future. So we feel, there's a lot of value in continuing to move this forward, and it's been something, across the muds we've been asked to look at and to proceed with. So that's why the funding for this was wrapped up in the excess funds memo.
When do you have to make payment?
So essentially, if they're kicked off in April, they could invoice May 1st, essentially, for services performed in April. So it would be more or less immediate once we issue that notice to proceed and on the work, they would be.
It's standard data running, it's a sort of professional service like data.
Analysis.
Yes,
Yeah.
We didn't vote on the project.
Yeah, on what?
We didn't vote for approval.
This was included as one of the projects, I believe, on the use of the surplus.
No, I knew that, but that wasn't approved. Okay.
So after they present it, you asked for a vote of the trustee board to approve the project. Am I correct on that?
And Mark, we're asking for the excess funds.
Right,
That would fund this project that.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is the project is the funding. So you're gonna ask for approval of the project with the funding. Am I?
Yeah.
All right.
So we can't,
It's not.
we can't approve
What
it.
I'm looking at is that it's funded.
Request for the money.
We requested this.
And so right now, our and so we get,
Correct.
yes, sir.
Okay.
So, yeah, we're not pushing this. I mean, it's something y'all have requested. If you don't give us the funds now, we'll ask for it next year's
Yeah.
budget. And
We understand it's gonna be spent. That's
Right.
not the issue.
Right.
I'm just looking at maintaining the integrity of the budget and the process.
Understood.
Okay.
So yes, it would be something that if the trustees vote to refund the money back to the MUDs, the $5.1 million, then we would come back with a budget amendment request. for that specific project.
And by the way, there is a midway point. Some of the budgets in the trustee meeting, these projects rather, can be approved or could possibly get accepted for.
Right, so going back, Jason really didn't get to quite finish like the three options y'all had to vote for. So one was excess funds get refunded, two, excess funds stay with SRA, or there be a hybrid version, which is what we're
Precisely.
talking about. So the
100%.
hybrid version has never really been done before of, okay, pick two projects that you would approve, three that you wouldn't, and we'll keep some of this here and some of it not. So that is technically an option. I don't want to complicate things more, but that is something that is there.
So, let's dwell on that. So if we take the hybrid, right? If, if
Well,
we say, you want to
One out
split,
of 5 projects makes sense.
makes sense. So I would,
If we go forward and approve
okay,
it.
so you. And two would be the AC water line.
Are you asking us to vote again?
Well, I'm saying, I mean, this is all going to be decided in the meeting. So if we, if I vote and we don't have a majority in our opinion, in our favor,
True.
do I negotiate? You know what I mean? Do I say we would like as an alternative, I know this giving away the negotiation secret, but
Oh, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying.
I mean, how?
All right.
do I-
Do we
do I
give
then
you,
attempt
do
to
we give you authority to
Get
negotiate?
part of the money back.
Okay. You want to have another vote?
You want to just get, yeah.
All right. So let's have another vote.
Because I've been directed to say.
All those in favor? Okay. Currently, as it stands, Director Smith is directed to vote for a refund.
Refund.
However, should it get turned down, can Director Smith pursue a negotiated settlement with certain projects?
That's acceptable.
Is that acceptable to all of you? All those in favor, say
What are
aye.
those certain projects.
Which project?
I would say, I'll express my opinion. My opinion would be the AC pipe.
Which ones? I'll tell you what.
And Highway 242.
What are your priorities?
Yeah, they not be ours.
Can you give us a priority and,
242, the TechStop project is coming.
Is number one?
Very near
Okay.
future.
You don't have a choice.
Yeah, and like Mike said, no choice.
all right. You got that?
It's a contractual requirement.
And then you got
You're
the,
requesting.
right, the reserves is contractual. So that's number
This is $350,000 for the 242, right?
So we serve.
index and.
Okay, we're talking only $66,000, right?
430.
So wouldn't you use the
thought it
emergency
was-
reserve to pay for the 242 adjustment, or no, that's different emergency? If you have an emergency reserve,
Emergency reserve is a pipe breaks and we have to go fix it, not this where you're being asked to lower. That is not technically an emergency.
and that emergency reserve, like that's stipulated what an emergency is considered?
But right now you're 400,000 short.
Yes.
If you can't hear it.
Can't hear my head shake. Yes, our policy has the description of, it has to be designated emergency by our general manager, and then, are you looking it up?
Yeah, it's just a policy way.
Yeah.
They can just say it's an
But it
emergency.
does say, and
By definition, that's what it should be there for,
But if this is.
but they don't want to do that.
This isn't an emergency.
But why are you increasing why are you adding 600,000 again to the emergency reserve? You're at 2 million, right, contract, the goal was 2 million. Right?
in it by $439,272.64, and that's because over time that the emergency reserve was established in 2014 with the policy that Brian was talking about earlier. And over time, it has interest earnings has kind of maintained the balance that equaled around CPI. Over the last few years, with the exponential growth in the CPI that Dan mentioned, it's not the US CPI, it's a professional engineering.
Engineering news record
Right.
construction price.
Yes,
Correct.
so that price index had major inflation over the last couple of years that our interest rates were not keeping up with. And so this is going to make up the delta for that. Bringing it
And
up.
are you looking at the interest rate window obviously we went from 0.01 to something probably 5% now. So obviously if you change the window, it affects that. So are we looking at the last 2-year window? Are we going back 5 years? And
We're looking at in interest versus that professional engineers index. So it's the index from the 2014. There's actually a chart in here that shows you how we get there. So if you'll go to page 48. the chart that walks through from 2014 when that was established to 2023, the difference in our emergency reserve balance compared with the CPI adjustment percentage. And
What page are you?
48.
48.
But also just clarification, it says the emergency reserve is used for unplanned or emergency repairs. So unplanned would be the 242 line.
Emergency repairs or replacement. So it's not, I guess that's the key. It has to be an unplanned repair or replacement.
It's an unplanned replacement. You're replacing portions of the line to adjust for the
So
stormwater.
you're gonna deplete the emergency reserve, and you're gonna have to
No, I'm just
replenish it.
to make sure that it's not like doubling up on something. Right? Like the emergency reserve, like I don't know what they're spending the emergency reserves on. I don't know. Like if there's money in there, like I guess just like in a scenario of like, let's say all the meds, they give us our money back, you still have to do 242, right? So you would dip into your emergency reserves at that point.
Right now, we're paying from our operating fund, so we may have to do the maintenance that's been in our operating budget to make that work. Because right now those were unbudgeted, and we are trying to make it fit within the budget. I will point out that the 242 project is not the full amount of the project. That is what was left of the emergency.
Okay.
For the excess reserve funds. So the additional part of that project, we're still paying for out of the operating reserves. So, Dan, I don't know.
The way that it reads, it's like 390,000 for construction, 10 for material testing, 400, and you're saying that that's not all of it. And so what we're seeing, it
The
makes
four
it,
hundred is, the 353,712.07 is not.
Yeah.
okay.
So where we are right now, David's looking for
Authority to
authority
negotiate.
to negotiate, and we're trying to nail him down where he doesn't have any flexibility beyond these three projects. Right?
So for clarity, if y'all are looking at 242 and then the AC pipeline, what I would kind of ask is that what we need for 242 is the 400. If you just want to give what's in here with the 353,712.07, that's the remainder, but the full amount of the project is $400,000.
So tell me again what that number.
Here.
Should be.
If you're looking, so your pages are different than this one. I've got somebody else's packet. Flip
Page 52.
52. Yeah. I didn't want to rattle off this.
To be clear, David, though, our percentage of the aggregate excess fund is approximately 20%. Okay, so really we're talking 80 grand plus out of our pocket of the 1.137. Okay.
If you were to make a motion.
So we're talking about the 1.6 for the AC. We're talking about how much for the 242? 400 for the 242. And then beyond that, reserves.
It would be up to y'all if y'all would want to. So I was just making clarification for the two
Right.
projects y'all have mentioned.
So if I go back to,
39.
if I look at that table, where you have all your reserves laid out, on page 48, it seems like, if I'm reading your table, emergency reserve balance was at 2.5.
That is not the actual emergency reserve balance. That is where the emergency reserve balance should be based on that, engineering, index. Sorry, I can't remember the name of that. Engineering
Yeah,
news record construction price index. So that's the calculation on what we should be at, but our actual cash balance is up in the text up here where it says as of December 31st, we had 2,223,257. So this is just a calculation of where we should be
And that was the end of 23.
Yes.
at December of 23. So that's not fiscal years, those are calendar years.
David, the emergency reserve to me is not a priority. It's well funded at 90+% of what the target is. I don't think there's any need for us to move on that, and it can be dealt with at the end of the fiscal year for the next fiscal year. The top two, we've already got 242.
Hey, we need to, hey,
I understand what everybody's saying. So really,
Okay,
what we're saying is that we want the 3 million back at a minimum.
no, it's not 3 million.
0.372
Yeah.
or one.
We want that
I
back.
mean, the total expenditure for the trustee board. So the
But
two would be one on the pipeline and the 242.
We
would
want
AC
all this
pipeline
Line at
and
242. That's,
AC pipeline and the 242.
Yes.
those make sense. Those make sense.
All right. Do you understand?
I have, I have my instructions.
Do we vote? Just to make sure.
We voted, but Shelley, for the minutes, do you understand what we've told him to do? Okay, does he understand what we've told him to do? All right. All right. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Another handout. So this is something we have been working diligently on over the past probably less than a week now. We finalized it this weekend. So what this is we have been working on this wastewater strategic plan and discussing it and coordinating with the MUDs for basically 3 years now. You know, I have presentations that go back to end of the year in 2020, where we were talking about consolidation or regionalization, and it turned into the wastewater strategic plan. March 2021 is when we started working with our consultant, Friesen Nichols, who David Munn is actually here today. And worked about 18 months on that phase 1 strategic plan. There was a number of stakeholder meetings. There was a number of presentations. There was updates and information provided to the MUDs at that time. We completed a final report that included some tech memos within it, and then moved forward into phase 2 master planning analysis, which we've spent about a year on now, and have delivered that final report last month. So there is a lot of information out there. There's a lot of data. What we felt is we wanted to try to create one document to really pull all that together. What were the key deliverables? What were the key findings, recommendations, milestones throughout this entire process, and try to you do not want to dig into the hundreds of pages. I think this is the document that would summarize the past 3 years to the best of our ability. There is also some additional information in this report regarding historic reports that other consultants did assessment on wastewater treatment facility 1. So there's some tables in here of the key findings of those historical reports that some of them I think go back to like 2010 timeframe. Furthermore, we've made those full reports available to y'all on the Google Drive as of like yesterday. So that's something that if you need help finding, Shelley or Eric can help you locate those. But the highlights of those and the findings of those historic reports are in this tech memo. So something we wanted to provide to y'all. You know, I want to give you some time to go through it and come back. And if any questions you have, you can funnel those through Eric. And we'd be happy to discuss further. So if you got questions now, we can take those again. David Munn is here, who has authored this tech memo. You know, and has been with us through this whole entire wastewater planning. So again, provide it to you, encourage you to read it, and hopefully it answers some of the questions that y'all have been asking and others have been asking across the months.
Shelley, could you send me an email with that link in there? Yes, sir.
Any questions for Dan?
Just like, what is the next process? Like, what are, I forgot the timeline.
So the timeline we originally spoke on is we were presented, I think it was in January, a draft of a supplemental agreement. And we discussed a vote in like the April board meeting is what we were hoping for. There has been a lot of discussion since then. I think Eric has some activities in motion regarding how this would be funded by the MUDs. What would the impacts to rates be, impacts to taxes if you go that route? So there's information that I feel Eric will be proposing to present at the next MUD meeting if it's ready, that will help with the overarching decisions on how to move forward. But that's my understanding of where we're at today.
So in March, we'll hear about how this is going to be financed and what it's going to do to the rates. No?
That's,
And-
yeah, that's item number 11, which I deferred because
Till March.
Adam and I and Brian
March.
are working on pro cons and how it would affect. And we're not looking at just the treatment plant. The supplemental agreement that is pending before the boards is for the first tranche for the treatment plant. We're looking at it from an overall standpoint of all of that, the projects, really the two big projects that needed it was the AC and the wastewater treatment plant number one, which amounted to about 525 million, something like that. So we're just saying, if those things go forward, this is what the ultimate effect on your customers would be based on tackling it in three or four ways. So
Okay.
that's what we're planning to bring to all the March meeting.
Great.
And I would assume that, you know, you're not going to want to make any decisions on how to do it until you've heard that, right?
Right.
So that's our goal
All right.
at this point.
Any more questions for Dan? Or Jason? Or Connie? Or Ed? All right. Can I move on? Item 11. Thank you. Thank you all for that. You've been very patient. Okay, you're gonna defer item 11?
That's the one I just.
Okay, yeah, so item 12, we have another brief on the project. Bear Branch, Panther Branch, Research Forest Drive.
Yeah, the consultant, LJA is essentially finishing up the drainage analysis, and they've been directed to provide a couple cost estimates for what's in the analysis, and we should have that here in the next couple months.
Okay, so all right, item 13.
Election update, we have 9 contested elections in the mud, in the greens this cycle, all except for the commercial districts. We have 26 positions that are up for election, and our final tally on candidate applications is 51. We had 11 additional applications that came in on Thursday and Friday, right before the deadline. So y'all have 4 applications submitted for 2 positions, and we are working with the county at this point to get all the documentation in place for them to be able to conduct the election on the district's behalf. Also working with Shelley to coordinate the candidate drawing for the position on the ballot. That's going to be on Monday, the 26th, and Shelley sent out information to the directors about the time. We're going to do those in 15-minute increments for each of those 9 districts. And withdrawal period technically is this Friday, the 23rd. So in theory, you could have some applications be withdrawn and reduce those number of candidates, but that's usually an anomaly. It's not a regular occurrence. So that's where we stand on elections. Happy to answer questions that you have.
You said there was 4 for 2 positions. What was that reference to right before you spoke?
There were 4 applications for potential directors on this mud, including the 2 incumbents, Deidre and George. So we have 2 challengers and 2 incumbents for 2 positions. Therefore, contested election.
All right, any other questions for Brian? All right, item 14. Consider the adoption of resolution concerning the developed district status for 2024.
We did get the information from LJ last week, but did not have a chance to have the resolution included in your packet after we received it. We did hear from LJ that none of the districts in the Woodlands are going to have a change in status. So y'all, as we talked about earlier in this meeting, were developed last year, so would be developed for 2024. We'll have those resolutions for next month, and so this will be a deferral item.
How many of the 9 or 10 mud districts, how many are developed? Just out of curiosity.
Let's see here.
They are developed.
They're all developed.
I think all but 2,
All
39.
but 3, 39, 67 in Metro development, and the other 7 are developed. Now, again, this has been an academic exercise because I don't know that we've had many that have exceeded the rollback, but yes, that's the designation for 23 and shifting the designation for 24. Right, so
All right.
we'll carry that forward.
All right. Item 15, John. You're up.
Report, correct? Yep, you got the hard copies there in front of you. So last year you issued an annual update for your residents and been proceeding with that again this year. Doing some back and forth here. So this is the most recent version. We can still amend this, but I would like to get this wrapped up by Friday to get it to the printer. So and approve it tonight if everyone feels good about it, if you have a chance to look through it, or I can take comments through Friday. Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me. You're not going to print. I apologize. That loosens up the timeframe. Delete that. You're doing digital only. Is that correct?
That is correct. We did not vote on it.
Okay.
However, just for the board, I made that decision. It's not finalized. The reason I made that decision is because it's free. And we had a very good distribution metrics last year. And since it was free, I went ahead and continued it.
You hit about, what, 64% of your customers open that email.
Something like that. I don't
Right.
remember.
Right, right.
But it was very good and it cost us nothing except the time to make this. So, and those numbers were actually better than some of the other mud districts. Yes, we were.
So, two questions. So if we want to, we can use our personal email address. So what's the comment on that instead of the?
Which should be, we always recommend that directors use their Woodlands Water. And the reason for that is if we get open records requests, it's a lot easier for directors to just search their Woodlands Water for any responsive documents as opposed to having to sift through both official email and a personal email. So that's why, I mean, it's up to the directors. It's your prerogative, but our recommendation to y'all is to keep it segregated with your Woodlands Water account email for official, business correspondence.
And then the other thing was, on my position, could you put trustee
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's
on that?
absolutely. Yeah, that's it. I overlooked that. I apologize.
More comments?
Well, it might be more efficient if you want to sit with this and, really give us some good thoughts. And we'll just,
Comments over here.
I'm sorry.
Have my comments
Oh,
already.
they're already on there. Oh,
Yeah.
perfect. Okay.
Take that from you.
I can fold these in and I don't know if the rest of you want to take a day or two or three.
What's your email address?
It's J, letter J, Geiger, Geiger,
G-E-I
G-E-R,
G-E-R at,
Woodlands Water.
Woodlands Water. Okay. If I have any comments, I'll send it to you. Bye.
Let's say, we give it till Monday.
Okay.
So we're not going to print.
The only thing that we might want to discuss is one of the comments that I made here is that we did put a cap of 3.5% on the tax increase. That was not included in there, and I made that note to John, and it was a typo, which is not worth talking about. Pardon me?
I guess it's looking ahead to 2024.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
we voted,
Right.
it was 24. It's on there.
Oh, okay, I see. I stand corrected. You did a great job.
I did get that.
Oh, okay, good.
Okay, so, we'll communicate by Monday.
Okay.
Make sure we're solid. Okay.
All right.
And then I know we're running long. Are we going to go into, communication report next?
Yeah, the next item's general manager report. Since he was already up, I was just gonna have him
Okay.
start there.
Yeah, that's great.
And then I only have just a couple quick things.
All right.
Just give you a quick version here. We are running long. Go on page 66. Have your communication report. I noted last month that I want to bring some additional metrics to you. To sort of round out the picture on how we did last year, right? So I presented you the annual survey results on knowledge and opinion levels, and those were encouraging. Results of that were encouraging, I felt, and here's some additional metrics to again further complete the picture. So we did excellent on our Digital advertising with 28,000 engagements through Chronicle.com. That's over industry standards for engagement rate. We got 160,000 a month in readership and community impact. We did 42,000 homes each month with a 2/3 page ad and a article in Woodlands Community Magazine. All of that helped drive up our website visitation. On page 65, you can see that we had a 32% increase in visitation over 2022. We had a 48% increase over our previous 5-year average. We had 115,000 unique visitors to our website. Woodlands Water Weekly, we're reaching almost 40% of our entire customer base every Monday with that. They're opening that email. That's a significant number. That puts us 20% above industry average for an open rate.
Wow.
Social media, a highlight there would be Facebook. We doubled our reach last year. So reach is the amount of folks that saw our stuff. It's not that the folks that are following us, but saw our material on Facebook. So that doubled last year. Are currently using WaterSmart. And but I do want to note that the rate of growth slowed last year, dropped by about 1/3. We are implementing some strategies going forward to get that rate of increase up. Our goal is 100.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know where we get there, but it's going to be better than 39. And then finally, on Holloway infrastructure renewal communications effort, we're working with the consultant. PEC has reviewed their strategic plan, provided comments. We'll finalize that strategic plan here in the next few weeks, and hopefully implementation will begin in 4 to 6 weeks or so.
Questions? When we have clients or customers who complain about the water bill or want to get a refund, do we require that they sign up for WaterSmart?
I think that's being discussed.
Okay.
Eric, do you have a comment on that?
Yeah, we strongly recommend if they've had a problem and they're not signed up, that they do, because oftentimes most of those problems would have been prevented. So we do that. What we're looking at right now, and you have a policy that dictates to us what we can do when issuing refunds. And so in that policy was created before AMI meters existed. And so we're re-looking at that policy, and we will be giving recommendation to the MUDs, hopefully in the next month or so, with new recommendations on how refunds would even be contemplated, because in this day and age, when we have so much data associated with that AMI meter, we can stop a lot of these expenses, stop a lot of the water losses if the customer would just sign on and pay attention. So that's the direction we're heading. And so there'll be more conversation.
Yeah, I'd really be supportive of that. I mean, there's no downside for the customers.
Right.
And I got an education this morning from Mike about water, that Wise Guys, new stuff for me. So I learned something, and I'm communicating it to some of our customers in my neighborhood. So thanks to you, appreciate that. And keep up the good work, John.
Maybe I wasn't listening correctly. Are you also telling new customers when they sign up? Did you say that when they sign up for service? Okay, then.
We're not mandating it, but we're strongly recommending that as well. We're looking at changing our application, new service application also to have
Okay.
there as well.
Okay.
We're at 39% signed up. We were at about 30 or so at the beginning of last year. So we've made some strides, but we've talked internally. I mean, we've also modified the portal so that you can now pay your bill through the WaterSmart link instead of having to go to the other one. So that is part of the software transition that we're kind of working through right now. That also facilitates folks being able to go to just one spot to check your water usage and pay your bill. So we think that will be a benefit to folks and hopefully incentivize So we're at 39%. We want to be at 80 or higher. I mean, we'd love to be as high as we can. Because we can preserve a lot of water losses. Yeah.
All right,
Yep, real quick. I just wanted to point out, Gulf Coast Water Conservation Symposium is tomorrow. Myself and a few other directors, I'll be attending that. And then I just wanted to give you an update on the One Water Task Force. If you recall, it was a group that was created, I think after Harvey. That was, and had some, I guess, some mixed success. I hear, and it kind of died off over the last couple of years. Last year, the township voted to at least approve the concept of recreating that, or in favor of. And so we, over the last couple months, have been creating essentially a goal that would be proposed for that group if reconstituted. And we met with the township leadership a couple weeks ago or so to kind of show them what our goals might be. And then, so the next step is there'll probably be some meetings. It'll probably be rebranded. And one of the things that we've talked about is it's probably going to need someone that's dedicated, at least part-time, to moving that initiative forward, whatever those goals end up being. That's an update. That's all I had on my report.
okay, did you have anything for the trustees?
Well, the only other thing is 17, which is also me, and just to let you know that you have a drought contingency plan and a water conservation plan. Those were filed. Those were filed in 2019. It's required every 5 years that we take that up and refresh and relook at those. So I just need concurrence from the board but something we have to
To
do.
look at it.
We've already started,
Okay,
but we need that vote.
all right, I need a motion to authorize Woodlands Water to re-examine the water conservation plan and drought contingency plan. Okay, I need a second.
Second.
All those in favor? All those opposed?
So we expect to have that back to you in April for a vote to review, and then we have to file it by May.
Okay,
Now, what's the highest stage we've gone into?
Historically,
Yeah.
2011.
Top of my head, I don't know that we got above the defined irrigation plan.
so what the Woodlands,
That's the first mandatory stage.
what the Woodlands lives in is what the rest of the world is stage 2, essentially. The DIS is with the alternating day irrigation, 2 days a week, et cetera. That's actually what most municipalities, that would be their stage 2, but Woodlands lives in that as of 2014, I think.
I don't remember us going to no irrigation allowed at all. I had a few districts that got into that spot, but they had some limitations on groundwater production.
So that just means like hand watering, no irrigation system. But the Woodlands has a policy of like addresses water every other day or certain, yeah.
Right. It's very unusual in the mud world to have those mandatory requirements in place year round, which has enabled us to achieve significant water conservation over the years.
The enforcement of that, is that a township people or is that mud people?
It's us.
It's you.
Okay, Brian, do you have anything for placement? All right. Do we have anything for placement on next month? I have item number 11, 12, and 14.
Talk about that GRP thing that David's bringing up.
I think we talked about the DRP in terms of getting information from the, Woodlands, SJRA, but, I don't think they said they'd bring it and share that information with us. The catch is.
Yeah, when you said that.
Right, and the catch is, well, they do it before they vote. See, we don't really have a say in that vote. You know what I mean?
No, but if we put it on an agenda item and then it's
Well,
public.
we can do that. You can put it in general and make, report from SJRA on, I like that, GRP,
Yeah.
that on the GRP excess funds. Yeah, we got one left.
Did you get that, Shelley? All right,
How about that?
all right, I need a motion to adjourn.
Make the motion.
Okay,
Second.
okay, all those in favor?
All right.
All right, let's get out of here.